if you want to get motivated and also keep up this motivation and not just grind through the day, because this has something to do with friction, but actually float through the day. You can't just rely on your motivation level, on your willpower to just push through. A lot of people ask about this, hey, how can I get more motivated and push myself? But what you also have to consider, because you need this part anyway always, life is not perfect, but you really want to consider your environment, where you put yourself into, and you want to build a supportive environment, right? We all know those days where we're like, hey, today I was super productive, I was not even thinking about procrastination. Why was that? Okay, I met up with some friends in between, I had some great rest breaks, I did something that was fun for me. All right, that's a nice day. And then there are other days, for example, for me, those other days are when I really just have to sit at home alone and just work out things on my own. Because then at some point I just slack off on YouTube and watch stupid videos. Abraham Maslow, I really love the psychologist. He talked about the pyramid of needs. You probably know this. He wrote so many books about this and wrote so much about how self-actualized human beings, how they evolve, how they think, what they do. I read a lot of books of him, and he actually had this nice quote where he said, hey, take the right people and put them in the wrong environment and they will do wrong. But put them in the right environment, they will grow, they will self-actualize. And that's what we want to do. Actually, I want to make here a couple of examples in different ways how you can be more productive, how you really grow, get inspired, how to learn better, how to get over addiction, all those kind of things you can use and set up your environment. You're not a tree. You can move, you can find new friends, you can have different days. You can move to a different city. It's all possible. And you want to be very strategic about setting your day up in a way that really it supports you. It's a great environment. Now, I'm also a coach. I help people to install the right habits. Here, environment is also key. Really, one key step is often really just get an environmental makeover to not even think about this, because especially habits, they have a trigger, right? But here I'm just really focusing on specifically the environmental makeover. First example is about productivity. As I said, I realized when I just work at home the entire day, I get unproductive. So what do? I realized, okay, for 1-2 hours I can be productive, and then I need to call a friend, have a meeting, get a coaching, or give a coaching to somebody else also. What I also did is the Maastricht Mastermind. I built this event where I have a couple of friends who also have their own projects. So I just invited them to my house, and for 4 days, that was last week, we just worked on our own projects. I built like a schedule, so at 11 o'clock we had a meeting all together, shared what we're struggling with, gave each other contacts and tips and supported us. At 4 o'clock we meditated, at 6 o'clock we got a feedback round, and every single day one person was responsible for the food for the entire day. So one day you have to do the food for everybody, but the other days you can just focus on your work. And there were always people around. It was like a co-working space. And those 4 days I was so productive, especially the first 3. I was so productive. And then the 4th day I realized, wow, I need a little bit of a rest break already, because I was so productive the first days, because the environment was different. Imagine those 4 days I would just sit at home, do my things on my own. Because actually I had to do a lot of grindy work, right? Preparing some things, edit some videos, all those kind of things, doing research regarding to some specific opportunities. It was grindy work, but with this environmental makeover of having this group, totally different. I was super productive. How did I do this? I was proactive. I started this event, I approached my friends, and some of them were like, oh no, I don't have time. Otherwise like, hey, that's a super cool event. And I built this. I built proactively this environment. I also plan proactively my days. I have this evening routine that I always also then check. How do I want to plan my next day? What would be a good day for me? What do I want to get done? What do I put in there so it's a fun day also? When do I have those fun things so they're also optimal as rest breaks? And when I'm super productive or when I'm very much focused, then I actually focus on work and not waste my time with a break. And then when I'm tired, I actually have those fun things. So getting the great balance. So I'm really proactively plan, sometimes even days before, set up some meetings at the right time, right? I usually don't have a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I'm just want to sit alone in my room, be productive, because that's when I'm most there. And then when I get tired, I want to talk with people because this motivates me, right? So this is the first example about productivity. The question is, what is it for you? right? Reflect on your days. When did you had a great day, when not? What was the difference, right? Reflection is really key. A second example is growing yourself. If you feel stuck in life, you have to change something. Really, people adapt so much. There's also this quote, you're the average of the 5 closest people in your life. It's pretty true. I experienced the most growth actually when I moved from my little city, little village where I grew up. And I actually, I moved to Maastricht, and that's where I then started studying psychology. And I met here so many inspiring people, so many smart people, learned so much. It was also very demanding, especially the first months, and I felt like I have such a steep learning curve. And I would not have this if I would stay in my little village, because things are there just the same. Things don't really change so much, right? It's great to be there, and maybe I even move there at some point, but in this period of my life it was very important to put myself in other contexts. So the question for you is, what kind of context do you have? Do you need to change a job? Do you still learn at your job? Or currently in life, what do you need to change up? Go to a book club, go to other different events, get to know more people, maybe really change the job, start studying something, put yourself out there where you feel like, oh, I'm learning again, I'm growing again as a human being, I'm out of my comfort zone also. This is an environmental makeover. And your life changes so much. Really, I'm a huge believer that the most growth really comes from putting yourself in the right environments. You just adapt. Humans, every species, every organism adapts. You want to put yourself in the right environment. It's hard to stay in a low-key environment and to grow out of there, right? Usually the mass is homogeneous. Now we had productivity, we had growth. Learning is also an aspect. Get to know yourself. Abraham Maslow again talked about the self-actualized human being. Yes, has a specific perception about a lot of different things and also emotions, but one part is also getting to know yourself, what you like, and do it this way. Can be superficial with what kind of shoes you like, but also gets a bit deeper, like, hey, what kind of person am I when it comes down to learning? Do I read a book? Do I talk with other people together? Do I sit down and watch a video? What is my optimal way to learn? And how often, like, when do I learn? How often? With whom do I reflect on it? Also all things to get to know yourself, and then it gets deeper and deeper, and you grow as a human being, but you also manage yourself optimally. Think about that as well. What is it for you? I had actually, in fact, 2 learning groups while studying at university, and was greatly successful. I have a friend who was even more successful than I am. She had straight A's all the time. She just liked sitting there in her room, literally alone for 6 hours and just studying. She was amazing. I could never do this. Well, we are just different. And what are you? Another example, YouTube addiction, and generally addiction. I just take this example because I've really found that YouTube is actually a struggle for me, especially as a YouTuber. You easily slack off. I'm still slacking off sometimes on YouTube, but it got way better by understanding that the trigger of slacking off on YouTube is being alone and tired in my room. I was like, hey, how can I ensure that I'm not alone and tired in my room? What do I do when I'm alone and tired? And what can I do, or how can I set up my day that I will never be alone and tired in my room? Right, again, meeting with the right people at the right time, Skyping, leaving the house, going somewhere else, going for a walk, changing the environment. It even means I actually have an app on my laptop where I can just then say, okay, for the next 8 hours or 12 hours or 24 hours, I want to block YouTube. I can't even open it. This is an environmental change. So I can't even access YouTube. Like going on YouTube and, oh, it's not closed. Ah, right, I remember now. Great. Environmental makeover. So we get productivity, growth, learning, addiction. What is this for you? Are you living next to McDonald's and you're addicted to fast food? Is your spouse also addicted to the same and she's always dragging you down again? What is it for you? That's why a lot of people have an easier time to get over the addiction if they actually go to an institution and live there for a couple of weeks to get over there. And then they come back though in the same environment, then they backlash, right? This is also a question you gotta answer. How can you change your context? And lastly, it's about evoking a crisis. I always remember that this happens if I realize, oh, a chapter comes to an end. I realized back in the days when I studied psychology, it was even before my master, was in my bachelor, people came back from their semester abroad, and then it was like, hey, we have half a year left, and then the bachelor is over. And then people realize, oh, it's stopping soon, and everybody fall in this crisis, be like identity crisis, who am I, what to do? And if we wouldn't have this, everybody would still chill and be like not questioning anything. But because we realized, oh, the environment is going to change soon, we're gonna get kicked out, then you start questioning. So the question is for you, how can you maybe sometimes even evoke a crisis if necessary? Maybe you're having for 10 years the same job, it's all the same partner, and you're super bored, you realize it's not the right partner, you know it's comfortable, but it's not right. It's the right comfortable job, but it's not the right job. How can you change that? Put yourself again in a different environment, realize this. Start this crisis and be like, hey, next year until then I want to have really quit my job. Become aware about this and then change again your environment. Sometimes even, I actually had this with my last girlfriend, actually she broke up with me. And it was great looking backwards that she did that. We are great human beings, but we just didn't fit perfectly together. And that's okay. And I didn't realize this at first, and then she actually made the move. And this put me in a crisis of questioning, learning and growing again. Environmental makeover. A lot of points here. It's actually a relatively long video. The question now is just, how can you use this knowledge? How can you put yourself into the right environment that you thrive, that you learn, that you improve, that you grow, that you do the things that you want to do during the day. Really, maybe even, I know I often say this, maybe it's not the best, I should not do this, but close YouTube again. Close your laptop, your phone, your PC. Light up a candle and chill in your room and brainstorm. What does it mean for you? How can you change your environment, put yourself in a different context, and then also grow and live a good life? That's really the core question. I think it's the most important when it comes down to personal growth. What environment do you put yourself out there?